Years had passed since the first luminance hubs glowed on Thalra Prime. Humanity's partnership with the Thalran had transformed the planet and inspired countless other species across the galaxy. But the story was no longer about a single mission. It was about the ripple effects of loyalty, courage, and remembered kindness. Captain Eleanor Ward stood once more on the balcony overlooking the capital city. The twin suns of Thalra Prime shone warmly, reflecting off crystal towers that now sparkled like a constellation. Streets thrived with life, and the music of the Thalran intertwined with human songs, forming harmonies that seemed to echo across the stars. Beside her, Highkeeper Eris observed quietly, his glow a deep and steady blue. "It has been many years since you first arrived," he said. "I never imagined that one small act of remembering would grow into something so remarkable." Elena smiled. It wasn't small, and it wasn't just remembering. It was acting. Every choice humans made, every hour we spent helping, every idea we shared, it became a network of hope. And now the galaxy is beginning to see it. The Concord of Renewal had expanded to dozens of worlds. Each planet had received the tools and guidance to thrive, combining human ingenuity and Thalran energy. The ripple effects were extraordinary. Famine-stricken worlds gained stable energy grids, communication networks connected previously isolated colonies, and species long at odds began to cooperate after witnessing humanity's loyalty and fairness. Even skeptical members of the Coalition of Worlds had started to change their opinions. Where once they doubted humanity's intentions, now they admired its courage and consistency. Ambassadors from distant planets attended summits to learn the secrets of luminance network management, not for profit, but for the betterment of their people. In the laboratories of Thalra Prime, human and Thalran scientists continued to innovate. They discovered that the resonance focus, the synchronization of thought, emotion, and light, could extend beyond a single planet. If applied across systems, it could transmit energy, knowledge, and even coordinated action across vast distances. Dr. Samir Patel marveled at the implications. "We are not just helping worlds survive," he said. "We are teaching them to flourish, and humanity's ability to inspire hope multiplies the effect exponentially. One act of loyalty can become the seed for an entire galaxy's renewal." Elena nodded. "That is the legacy we leave. Not just technology, not just cities rebuilt, but the understanding that remembering kindness can change everything." As the network expanded, the Thalran began to integrate human methods with their own natural abilities. They developed schools of energy control for young Thalran, teaching them how to focus their light for healing, construction, and communication. Humans, in turn, learned from the Thalran's unique perception of energy, developing new tools that worked in harmony with the galaxy's living currents. Highkeeper Eris often stood beside Elena as they observed this growth. "When your species first arrived," he said, "we did not know what to expect. You were young, impulsive, and untested. Yet your courage, creativity, and loyalty have not only saved us but created something the galaxy has never known. A partnership based on memory and trust." Elena smiled. "We only did what we would hope another species would do for us. When someone helps you in your darkest hour, the right response is to act, not out of obligation but because it is what life itself asks of you." The influence of humanity's actions began to extend even further. In a distant star system, a world on the brink of collapse received assistance from human Thalran teams. Energy grids stabilized, agriculture was restored, and the species there began to rebuild its cities. When news of this reached the Coalition of Worlds, some alien leaders realized a profound truth. Humanity's power lay not in force, but in loyalty, action, and inspiration. Entire civilizations began to reflect on the lessons of Thalra Prime. Leaders asked themselves, how can we act with the same courage, integrity, and loyalty? The galaxy began to change quietly but irreversibly. Diplomacy improved, trade agreements were renewed with fairness, and conflict slowly diminished in places where the Concord of Renewal had reached. Back on Thalra Prime, the Thalran celebrated the Festival of Light, a yearly event commemorating humanity's arrival and the restoration of their planet. Thousands of glowing citizens gathered in the plaza, while humans joined in the celebration, symbolizing the enduring partnership between species. Elena walked among the crowd, watching the joy of children whose laughter had once been silenced by fear and despair. A young Thalran girl ran up to her glow bright and vibrant. "Captain Ward," she said, "you and your people saved us. We will never forget what hope feels like." Elena knelt to meet her gaze. "You don't need to thank us. We remembered what was done for us. That is enough. Now you carry the light forward." The girl's glow pulsed warmly, and the energy around her spread across the plaza. People in Thalran alike felt a surge of life and warmth. Proof that a single act of remembered kindness could echo through generations. In the council hall of THALRA-Prime, Eris convened the High Council to discuss the future. "The humans have shown us something extraordinary," he said. "Not merely technology, but a way of thinking and acting that strengthens the galaxy itself. We must continue this partnership, not only for ourselves but for all worlds in need." Elena addressed the council. "The Concord of Renewal is built on one simple truth. When someone helps you, you remember. When you remember, you act. And when you act with courage and kindness, life grows stronger. That is the legacy we can all share." The council members, glowing with renewed energy, nodded in agreement. The Thalran, once on the brink of fading, now stood fully restored, ready to share their gifts with others alongside humanity. Even beyond the galaxy, whispers of humanity's deeds traveled through the stars. Stories of loyalty, courage, and creativity became legends. Children on distant planets drew murals of glowing humans in Thalran. Hands joined across the void of space. Teachers spoke of the Concord of Renewal as a model of cooperation, not domination. The phrase repeated everywhere. They supported us once. Humanity remembered. And everywhere, the truth of those words inspired hope, courage, and determination. Captain Elena Ward, now a seasoned leader and diplomat, often reflected on how it all began. From the first rescue of the Dawn Voyager centuries ago, to the restoration of THALRA-Prime and the spread of the Concord of Renewal, every act had built upon another. One choice, one moment of remembered kindness, had sparked a galaxy-wide transformation. In quiet moments, she would gaze at the stars and think of Elyar, the Thalran who first saved humanity. She whispered to the memory of him and all his people, "We remember, and we act." The galaxy had learned a profound lesson. True strength lies not in weapons or politics, but in loyalty, courage, and the willingness to act on remembered kindness. Humanity had shown that even a single species, when driven by memory and honor, could change the destiny of worlds. From THALRA-Prime to distant star systems, the Concord of Renewal stood as a living testament to what could happen when a species chooses to repay a debt of gratitude with action, creativity, and compassion. High Keeper Eris stood beside Elena on the highest tower of the capital city, their lights blending in a golden-blue glow. "Captain Ward," he said softly, "you and your people have left a legacy that will endure for millennia. The galaxy will never forget the kindness you have shown." Elena smiled, her gaze on the stars. "It is not just our legacy. It is the legacy of every act of kindness remembered, and every choice to respond with courage. That is what changes worlds. That is what shapes the galaxy." And as the twin suns set on THALRA-Prime, the planet shone like a living jewel, a beacon of hope and proof that humanity's greatest power is to remember, to act, and to inspire. From this single act of gratitude, countless worlds had been saved, alliances formed, and the galaxy's future forever altered. And somewhere in the hearts of every human in Thalran, the truth remained. They supported us once. Humanity remembered, and in doing so, humanity changed everything forever. It was the year 2286, and Earth was finally healing from centuries of pollution and conflict. The blue planet shone brighter than it had in generations, and for once, humanity felt proud of its progress. Cities floated over oceans. Forests had returned to deserts, and energy came from clean sources. But on one quiet night, everything changed. Astronomers at the Lunar Observation Station noticed a strange light approaching Earth. At first, they thought it was a comet. But as the light grew larger and closer, calculations revealed something terrifying. It wasn't a comet. It was a massive asteroid 10 kilometers wide moving straight toward Earth. Every nation panicked. Governments united their forces to stop it, but their weapons were too weak, their time too short. The asteroid would strike in 6 days. Humanity could only watch as the countdown to extinction began. Families prayed. Scientists wept. The people of Earth realized they were helpless. Despite all their technology, all their strength, they could not stop what was coming. And then, the stars answered. On the fourth night, hundreds of ships appeared in orbit. They were sleek, silver, and silent. They surrounded the asteroid and released waves of energy that shimmered like soft blue light. In a matter of hours, the asteroid broke apart into harmless dust, scattering across the sky like falling stars. The entire world watched in disbelief. News broadcasts froze. Millions fell to their knees. The ships then turned toward Earth, hovering in low orbit, glowing like lanterns. Humanity waited in fear and awe. Were they saviors? Or something else? The first message came through every device, every screen, every speaker on Earth. It was a calm, melodic voice speaking in perfect translation. People of Earth, the voice said, we are the Zalethi Dominion. We saw your danger and could not remain silent. You are safe now. There was silence across the planet. Then cheers. Tears. People hugged strangers in the streets. Humanity, for the first time in history, had met visitors from the stars, and those visitors had saved them from extinction. The Zalethi were nothing like humans had imagined. When their delegation landed, they appeared tall and graceful, with luminous silver eyes and smooth crystal-like skin that reflected the light. They spoke gently, their voices calm and musical. Their leader, Envoy Sorel, explained that the Zalethi were travelers who believed in preserving life wherever it was found. We have watched your species grow, she said. We remember our own struggles long ago. You remind us of ourselves, stubborn, creative, and full of hope. The governments of Earth gathered in the rebuilt United Nations Dome in Geneva. For the first time, all nations sat together without rivalry. They asked why the Zalethi helped them. Sorel simply smiled and said, because it was the right thing to do. She offered something more, aid. The Zalethi would share clean energy systems, advanced medicine, and food technology. They called it the gift of balance. It would end hunger, disease, and pollution, if humanity used it wisely. Some leaders hesitated. Others feared dependency. But when the Zalethi demonstrated how a single crystal generator could power an entire city for centuries without harm, doubt faded away. In weeks, Earth changed. The sky cleared, rivers ran clean, and deserts began to bloom. Poverty fell, cities glowed with soft blue light, and sicknesses that had haunted humanity for thousands of years disappeared. Children born after the arrival grew up healthy and free. Humanity entered what they called the Age of Renewal. But even as joy filled the world, some humans wondered about the Zalethi's true motives. Were they gods? Guardians? Or simply kind travelers? Dr. Maya Chen, an astrophysicist from the lunar station, was one of the first humans to work directly with the Zalethi engineers. She found them endlessly patient and kind, yet strangely distant. They never ask for anything in return, she noted to her team. They give and leave. It's as if they don't believe we have anything to offer. Her words proved true. After several years of helping Earth rebuild, the Zalethi announced that their mission was complete. On the day of departure, billions watched as their ships prepared to leave orbit. Envoy Sorel appeared once more before the United Nations. Her silver eyes shimmered with light as she spoke. Humanity has a future now, she said. Guard it well. You are capable of greatness, if you remember kindness. Then, with a final pulse of light, the Zalethi ships vanished into the stars. Centuries passed. Humanity kept its promise. They studied the technology left behind, learning, improving, and expanding beyond what even the Zalethi imagined. Space travel became common. Colonies spread across nearby systems. Artificial intelligence and bioengineering reshaped human life. But no matter how advanced they became, one lesson remained sacred. Never forget who helped them first. Every new human settlement placed a monument of a glowing hand reaching out, a tribute to the Zalethi's kindness. Every school taught the day the stars reached out as part of history. And deep in every human heart, there was a quiet oath. If we ever find those who once helped us, we will help them in return. 300 years later, that promise would be tested. A small human exploration vessel named Aurora detected a faint distress signal near the edge of the known galaxy. It was ancient, weak, and almost lost to time. The crew debated ignoring it. It could be a trick or just interference. But the signal contained a single line, repeated again and again in a fading voice. This is the Zalethi Dominion. We are dying. The crew froze.
Many of them had grown up with stories of the noble Zalethi who saved humanity.
Captain Elias Ward, a calm and thoughtful leader, stared at the signal data for a long time before speaking. They saved us when they didn't have to, he said quietly. We owe them more than words. That single decision to, trace that faint call would set humanity on a path that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. As Aurora prepared for its long journey into unknown space, humanity remembered the ancient promise made under a blue sky long ago. The stars had once reached out to save them. Now it was humanity's turn to reach back. 300 years had passed since the Zalethi ships vanished into the stars. Humanity had not forgotten them. Every generation spoke about the shining silver vessels that came when Earth faced its darkest hour. Now humans were no longer a single-planet species. They had spread to more than 50 star systems. Massive stations orbited suns, and colonies grew on distant worlds covered in red deserts and green oceans. The once fragile race of Earth had become strong and wise. Yet no matter how far they traveled, they carried one memory: the kindness of the Zalethi, a mission of the heart. When the exploration vessel Aurora discovered the ancient distress signal from the Zalethi Dominion, news spread across human space like fire. Every communication network repeated the same haunting phrase: "This is the Zalethi Dominion. We are dying." People wept when they heard it. Some couldn't believe it. The noble race that had saved humanity was now in danger. Meetings began in the United Earth Council, a body that now guided all human worlds. The Grand Hall in New Geneva filled with diplomats, scientists, and leaders from every colony. President Amira Kellen stood at the center, her silver-gray uniform shining under the glass dome. Her voice was calm but carried deep emotion. "We owe them more than gratitude," she said. "Without the Zalethi, there would be no Earth as we know it. If they are calling for help, we must answer." Many agreed, but some were cautious. An old general named Thomas Rhee spoke with concern. "Madam President, we do not know their situation. It could be a trap, or their enemies might still exist. Sending a fleet could risk lives." Amira looked at him and replied softly, "When they saved us, they risked everything. Should we do less?" There was silence in the hall. Then slowly, people began to rise from their seats in agreement. Humanity had made its decision. They would go. The journey begins. The Aurora became the lead ship of what would soon be called the Expedition of Gratitude. Hundreds of ships joined the mission. Science vessels, hospital cruisers, cargo transports filled with food, medicine, and building supplies. Soldiers volunteered not for war, but for protection. Engineers, doctors, and teachers signed up to rebuild a civilization they had never met, but always honored. On the day of departure, the skies above Earth were filled with bright trails of light as the fleet rose into space. Billions of people watched from cities, mountains, and domes. In classrooms, children waved flags. In temples and churches, prayers were whispered. On the ships, quiet hearts carried the same thought: we are going to help those who once helped us. Captain Elias Ward, now commanding the Aurora, stood on the bridge watching the stars. His face showed calm determination. "Set the course," he said. "We find them no matter how far." And with that, the fleet vanished into the endless sea of stars. The Forgotten Empire months passed as the fleet crossed distant regions of the galaxy. Many had never been explored by humans before. They traveled through strange nebulae, silent star fields, and systems filled with ancient ruins. Finally, their sensors detected what they had been searching for: the edge of the old Zalethi Dominion. But what they found broke their hearts. The once bright empire was dark. Worlds that had once glowed with life were now silent and gray. Great cities floated in ruins, and empty towers reached toward broken skies. When Aurora entered orbit around one of the central Zalethi planets, no ships came to greet them. There were no signals, no movement, just stillness. "Are we too late?" whispered Commander Leon Sato. Captain Ward didn't answer. He only stared at the surface. "No," he said finally. "We find someone. There must be someone." They sent down search teams. Days turned into weeks. And then, finally, a small scout unit found life. Weak signals coming from deep underground. The last of the Zalethi, the rescue teams descended into the ruined world. The air was thin and the sky glowed a dull red. What they found below the surface was both beautiful and tragic. Thousands of Zalethi still lived, but they were frail and sick. Their once radiant bodies had dimmed, and their crystal-like skin had turned pale. Their energy sources were failing, their crops dying. When they saw humans again after 3 centuries, many could not believe it. The surviving leader, Elder Viren, approached the human captain. His voice trembled with disbelief. You are human?" he asked weakly. "Yes," said Captain Ward gently. "We came because you once came for us." The Zalethi elder looked around at the humans in wonder. "We thought your kind would forget us with time." Ward smiled softly. "Humans forget many things, Elder, but we never forget kindness." Tears filled Viren's glowing eyes. "You came all this way? Just to help us?" Ward nodded. "You saved a world once. Now it's our turn." Hope returned soon. The entire fleet began their work. Hospitals were built. Fields were restored. Zalethi technology that had fallen into decay was repaired using human engineering. Doctors treated illnesses the Zalethi thought were unstoppable. Engineers shared knowledge, teaching them new ways to use their energy crystals. In return, the Zalethi shared their ancient wisdom, helping humans understand balance and peace once again. Days turned into months. Slowly, color returned to the once dead cities. Light shone again from their crystal towers. Music returned to their plazas, laughter to their halls. Children, both human and Zalethi, began to play together, learning each other's languages. One evening, as 2 suns set behind the rebuilt skyline, Elder Viren stood beside Captain Ward. "You have given us back our life," the elder said quietly. "When we helped you, we did not expect anything in return. But your people, your hearts, you are different." Ward looked toward the glowing horizon. "You once showed us mercy when we were powerless. That shaped who we became. Every child on Earth knows your story. You didn't just save us, you made us better." The elder smiled faintly. "Then perhaps we both were meant to learn from one another." The message that changed everything. Months later, when the Zalethi world finally stood strong again, Captain Ward sent a message to Earth. His voice carried through every human network, broadcast live to billions of people. "These Zalethi live. They are our friends, our teachers, and our family among the stars. Humanity has kept its promise. We have given back what was once given to us." The broadcast spread beyond human space. Other alien races, those who had once mocked humanity's decision to help, now watched in awe. They saw what humanity had done not with conquest or greed, but with compassion. Soon ships from other civilizations arrived to join the effort. Inspired by humanity's example, they too began to rebuild what they had ignored for so long. The galaxy had changed, not through war, but through kindness. The new dawn a year later, a great ceremony was held in the capital of the reborn Zalethi world. A monument stood in the center, a tall crystal structure shaped like 2 hands reaching for each other. One human, one Zalethi. At the base, the inscription read, "Kindness does not fade. It returns." Elder Viren stood beside President Amira Kellen, now older but still strong. "You have shown the stars that compassion is not weakness," he said. "You have rewritten what it means to be powerful." Amira smiled. "You once told us to guard our future. We did, and now it belongs to all of us." As night fell, lights across the city glowed softly, forming the symbol of 2 joined worlds. Children laughed, humans and Zalethi danced together, and the stars above shone brighter than ever. Humanity had finally repaid the kindness that once saved them, and in doing so they had changed the galaxy forever. The age of gratitude had truly begun. The rebuilding of the Zalethi world had taken time, patience, and tireless effort. Yet even as cities rose and towers gleamed under twin suns, a new challenge emerged. The Zalethi were only part of their former empire. Many worlds in the Dominion had fallen into silence, abandoned by allies and left vulnerable to decay. Humanity now faced a choice. They had already given aid to the central Zalethi planet, but the signal that led them here was only one of many. Could they extend their help across the scattered, dying systems of a once great empire? Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Aurora, looking at the holographic map of Zalethi space. Red dots marked planets with no life, yellow for struggling colonies, and green for the few still thriving. Commander Leon Sato, his second-in-command, leaned over the console. "We can't cover all of them at once," she said softly. We have resources, but time is limited. Some worlds may be too far gone. Ward's expression was calm, though firm. Every dot represents a life. Every world matters. We go wherever we are needed. Humanity did not forget them when we were weak. Now we are strong. We cannot turn away. A fleet of Hope, the United Human Expeditionary Fleet, was the largest ever assembled. Thousands of ships moved in careful formation, carrying supplies, engineers, doctors, and diplomats. Humanity did not come with weapons, for this mission was not of conquest, it was of compassion. As the fleet moved through the galaxy, it encountered remnants of other civilizations. Many had once traded with the Zalethi, but now their colonies were empty, overtaken by neglect. Strange, silent stations orbited dead planets, and the fleet's sensors detected systems that had not seen life for centuries. Alien observers began to notice. Some watched in disbelief, questioning why humans would risk themselves for another species. They could take what they want and claim it, one alien diplomat said. Instead, they give. Why? Captain Ward's message echoed back to them. We repay kindness not with words, but with action. This simple philosophy began to ripple across nearby worlds. Slowly, curiosity turned to admiration. The first contact beyond the homeworld, the first remote Zalethi colony the humans visited, was on a world called SCIFI-Prime. Once, it had been a center of learning and culture. Now it was almost unrecognizable. Buildings crumbled, rivers were polluted, and the air shimmered with dust storms. The human landing party stepped carefully onto the surface. Small groups of Zalethi survivors emerged, fragile but alert. When they saw humans, fear mixed with hope. A young Zalethi named Lyra approached cautiously. Are you here to fight? She asked, her voice trembling. No, replied Captain Ward, kneeling slightly to meet her gaze. We are here to help. You once gave life to our world. Now we bring life to yours. Lyra's eyes widened. She had grown up hearing stories of the silver-eyed humans who had once thrived on Earth. She had never imagined meeting them. Within days, humans and Zalethi began working together. Engineers restored water systems. Doctors treated illnesses that had spread unchecked. Schools reopened, and children laughed again, their voices carrying across the empty streets like music. Lessons beyond technology, it was not only machines and medicine that humans brought. They shared something more, that their perspective. Born from survival and growth, Dr. Maya Chen, now serving as the chief scientific officer of the fleet, explained to Zalethi leaders how to adapt new techniques without abandoning their culture. Technology alone cannot save a civilization, she said. You must combine it with wisdom, teamwork, and care for each other. That is what allowed humanity to survive. The Zalethi listened closely. They had always been advanced, but they had lacked the resilience and determination that humans cultivated in the face of hardship. Humanity's spirit and the ability to act decisively, to create hope from despair, became a lesson the Zalethi cherished more than any crystal-powered device. Challenges, along the way, the journey was not without difficulties. Some colonies had suffered damage beyond repair, and entire ecosystems were failing. Humans had to make careful choices about which worlds to prioritize, balancing limited resources with urgency. At the same time, alien races who had once been allies of the Zalethi watched with suspicion. A council of observers convened on a distant station. Some criticized humanity for interfering, claiming that rebuilding another empire was dangerous. Yet even these skeptics could not deny the results. Where humans worked, life returned. Cities rose, water flowed, children played. The simple truth became clear. Humans were changing the galaxy not by force, but by dedication and compassion. The turning point, halfway through the mission, the fleet approached the planet Kirith, which had been silent for centuries. On arrival, they found a colony of Zalethi scientists struggling to maintain their energy core. Without it, their planet would freeze and die. The human engineers quickly assessed the situation. We can repair it, said Chief Engineer Raj Malik, but it will take everyone working together, humans and Zalethi alike. Over the next weeks, humans and Zalethi labored side by side. It was exhausting work requiring patience and precision, but when the energy core hummed to life again, a cheer rose that could be heard across the planet. Elder Varen, who had traveled with the fleet to advise the colonies, looked at Captain Ward. "You have done more than we imagined," he said. "The kindness you carry, it changes everything," Ward smiled. "You once carried that kindness to us. Now we carry it to you and your people. That is all." A message to the galaxy as the expedition of gratitude continued. Stories of human courage and care spread across the stars. Other species began to watch, curious and inspired. Some joined in, offering assistance to the Zalethi colonies they had once ignored. For the first time, the galaxy witnessed a new kind of power, strength rooted in generosity and loyalty. Humans showed that influence did not need to be taken by force. It could be gained by deeds, by compassion, and by remembering the value of life. Back on Earth, broadcasts from the fleet inspired billions. People watched as humans rebuilt alien worlds, teaching them and caring for them as if they were family. Young children in Earth schools learned that power was not measured by weapons, but by the courage to act with heart, the end of silence. By the time the fleet returned to the central Zalethi world, dozens of colonies had been restored. The once empty skies now carried ships traveling freely between planets. Trade, culture, and communication returned to the Zalethi Dominion. The elder Viren addressed the humans one evening. "You have done what we thought impossible. You have restored life to our empire." Captain Ward replied, "You once saved Earth when no one else could. Now we have repaid a small part of that gift. Humanity will always honor kindness. It is what makes us who we are." The Zalethi smiled, their luminous eyes reflecting the twin suns. "Perhaps," Elder Viren said softly, "we underestimated your species. You have proven that the heart of a human is stronger than we imagined." A legacy of gratitude. As the humans prepared to return to their own worlds, they left behind more than rebuilt cities and repaired systems. They left behind a philosophy, a hope, and a bond that could never be broken. The Zalethi now understood what humanity had always known, that actions speak louder than words, and that true power comes from helping others without expecting reward. From this moment forward, humans were no longer just survivors of Earth. They were teachers, friends, and guardians, a shining example of what a species could become when it remembered its debts and honored them fully. And somewhere in the quiet of space, beyond the rebuilt stars, a single thought echoed across human minds. The galaxy can change, one act of kindness at a time. Years had passed since the United Human Expeditionary Fleet began its mission across the remnants of the Zalethi Dominion. The once fading empire had been revitalized. Where silence had reigned, music and laughter now echoed through streets. Towers of crystal gleamed under twin suns, and the smell of flowering gardens replaced the odor of dust and decay. Humanity had not only rebuilt cities and infrastructure, they had rekindled hope. Across dozens of worlds, humans worked alongside Zalethi citizens, teaching, learning, and sharing knowledge. The air buzzed with activity, the energy of life returning to systems long abandoned. Yet, this revival was more than technology. It was a renewal of spirit. Lessons beyond repair on the planet SCIFI-Prime, once a silent desert world. Humans and Zalethi gathered in the restored central plaza. Children played together, human and Zalethi, weaving around fountains that reflected the twin suns. Elders from both species sat on benches exchanging stories of survival, kindness, and perseverance. Dr. Maya Chen walked among them, observing quietly. "It's amazing," she said to a Zalethi scientist beside her. "They are thriving not just because of what we brought, but because they are learning resilience again." The scientist, a tall, silver-eyed Zalethi named Oral, nodded. "You've given us more than medicine or machines. You've reminded us what it feels like to hope." Chen smiled softly. "That's what humans do. We don't just fix problems. We inspire change." Across the galaxy, humans had proven a quiet truth. Strength was not only in power, but in the courage to act with heart, bridging cultures. One of the most remarkable achievements of this era was the blending of human and Zalethi cultures. Humans introduced efficient farming techniques adapted for alien soils, sustainable energy systems, and methods for rapid construction. In return, Zalethi shared advanced sciences humans had never imagined. Crystal-based energy conduits, memory storage systems woven from living plants, and teachings about cosmic harmony. At first, some Zalethi were hesitant. They had survived centuries of decline on their own methods and were proud of their heritage. But slowly, as humans patiently taught and demonstrated, the benefits became undeniable. It was not a process of domination, but partnership. Together they developed hybrid technologies that combined the best of both species. Cities began to glow with a warm light that reflected this collaboration, a symbol of unity, progress, and shared hope. The return of trade and communication, once the Zalethi dominion had fallen silent. Trade routes and communication lines had decayed. Messages between planets took months or were lost entirely, and systems that had once shared knowledge no longer did. Humans rebuilt these networks. Ships carried not just supplies but information, art, and culture. Libraries were restored and expanded. Schools reopened, teaching history, science, and philosophy to both Zalethi and human children. Soon, news of the revival spread beyond the Zalethi territories. Neighboring species that had once abandoned the Zalethi began to watch in curiosity and awe. Some feared human influence, unsure why a species would dedicate itself so fully to another. Others admired the example humanity set, realizing that power could take many forms, not only through force, but through compassion and unwavering commitment. The test of patience. The revival was not without challenges. Some planets had suffered so much that their ecosystems were almost impossible to restore. Crystals once used to store energy were damaged or destroyed, forcing humans and Zalethi engineers to create new methods. Yet humanity's approach was steady. Captain Elias Ward often reminded his crews, "Patience is part of strength. We are not here to hurry but to heal. Every life restored, every system renewed counts." Even Elder Viren, who had witnessed the Zalethi decline firsthand, was impressed. "Your kind does not give up," he said quietly to Ward one evening as the twin suns set behind them. "You persist where others would abandon hope." Ward smiled. "We learned from you. You once reached out to help us. Now we return that gift one world at a time. A symbol of unity on one of the most heavily damaged planets, the humans and Zalethi built a new city center. At its heart stood a monument designed by children from both species. Two hands reaching toward each other. One human, one Zalethi joined in a crystal embrace. When it was completed, the citizens gathered to witness the unveiling. Elder Viren spoke first. "This symbol is not only for us. It is for all who see it across the galaxy. It represents unity, courage, and the power of returning kindness." President Amira Kellen addressed the crowd, her voice calm yet full of emotion. "Humanity was once saved by a simple act of compassion. Today we honor that by acting with the same courage. Let this monument remind everyone, no matter how distant the stars, no act of kindness is ever lost." The crowd erupted in applause, and as the twin suns rose the next morning, the monument glowed softly, a beacon visible across the planet. A lesson to the galaxy word of the human-Zalethi collaboration traveled far beyond their borders. Aliens who had once abandoned the Zalethi now sent observers, some even offering their assistance. They marveled at how humans rebuilt not for conquest, not for reward, but for principle. One diplomat from a distant system asked Captain Ward, "Why help them? They cannot repay you. Why risk everything?" Ward's reply was simple and unwavering. "They saved us when we were helpless." Humanity never forgets an act of true kindness. This principle became a quiet legend across the galaxy. Species began to question the nature of strength. Was it measured by armies, fleets, or weapons? Or was it measured by loyalty, courage, and the willingness to act for the good of others? Humans had proven that even in a vast galaxy, one species could inspire change without domination, simply through consistency, care, and action. The rebuilding of civilization, years passed, and the Zalethi worlds flourished again. Agriculture returned, energy flowed without interruption, and children ran through the streets singing songs of old and new. Humans remained, not as rulers but as mentors and partners. The collaboration created innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Cities floated above oceans with energy drawn from both Zalethi crystals and human solar networks. Transportation systems linked planets that had once been isolated for centuries. Libraries contained knowledge from both Earth and Zalethi archives, forming a combined wisdom of civilizations. Elder Viren often remarked to Ward, "We never imagined our empire could rise again. Your people have done more than rebuild cities. You have rebuilt hope. Ward replied. It is not only our work, it is the work of every human in Zalathi who believes in each other. That is what makes it lasting. A new era. With every restored planet, humanity's example spread. Neighboring species began to reconsider their own histories. Some returned to help, inspired by the courage and compassion humans displayed. Others began diplomatic missions, forming alliances based on cooperation rather than fear. Humanity had done more than rebuild the Zalithi dominion. They had demonstrated a universal truth. Civilizations thrive not when they dominate, but when they value life, nurture each other, and act with heart. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, surely, and beautifully, through the example of humans and Zalithi working together. The promise of tomorrow, one quiet evening, on a hill overlooking a restored city on the central Zalathi world. Captain Ward and Elder Vren watched children play. Humans and Zalathi laughed together, learning each other's games and songs. You have given us more than life, Vren said softly. You have reminded us why it matters. Ward looked at the horizon where twin suns dipped behind shining towers. You once saved Earth, he replied. We remembered. We never forget kindness. And now it will continue, through our actions, our teaching, and our promise to each other. Above them, the stars shimmered with possibilities. The galaxy, once quiet and uncertain, now held the music of life, collaboration, and hope. Humanity had shown that a single species, when guided by compassion and courage, could reshape the destiny of countless worlds. And in the hearts of humans and Zalithi alike, one quiet truth rang clear. Kindness, when returned, can change everything.